Welcome to Zephyr Yoga Inspiration. I offer these podcasts for free, and your support really does make a difference and is appreciated. To make a donation, please click the link in the episode description or visit zephyryoga.com.
I know that we've just finished a series on the elements, earth, water, fire, wind, and space, and actually applied them in practice and did all these kind of really interesting hand mudras to bija mantras to identifying the sense organ with each of the elements. Now in the next 4 weeks, what we're going to be doing is discovering more about now that information more in the Ayurvedic perspective in our doshas. Now, this is pointing towards our sister science of yoga called Ayurveda. And Ayur means life, longevity, and Veda means wisdom, knowledge, the spiritual sciences of our lived experience. So what links yoga and Ayurveda together is our prana. This is our life force. This is our vital energy. And yogis, the best way I can kind of, give you an image of it, yogis see it as like a flame, like on a candle. Now, the flame is called prana. This is your vital energy. Sometimes we have a small flame. Sometimes we have a big flame. The light from that flame is called Tejas. It is that illumination. It's the light that beams and radiates from your vital energy. And then it draws on its resources on Ojas. It's the ghee or the candle wax. And that energy fuels your flame to burn consistently and shine. So this is kind of quite important in both systems of yoga and Ayurveda. David Frawley, who is a writer as well as an Ayurvedic doctor and a teacher, he's written tons of books, and this comes from Yoga and Ayurveda, one of the books he has written. And he says that the yoga is the intelligence of prana, seeking greater evolutionary transformation. And Ayurveda is the healing power of prana, seeking to consolidate the life systems it's already developed. So prana, our vital energy, is said to be the same light and energy that lights the whole universe. It radiates deep truth. It accesses this boundless energy to go and do our life well, to create wise action. It is that which kind of fuels this inherent creative energy to express itself and connect to all universal wisdom and knowledge. So it's inherently healing, very inspiring, and also transformative. So this prana, yoga, is the intelligence of prana seeking that evolutionary transformation. And Ayurveda is that healing power of prana seeking to consolidate the life systems it's already developed. It's kind of pointing to it's already developed. So there is a certain amount of consciousness embodied as you. There's a dharmic purpose. Dharma means our purpose. It's our path. It's our mission. And it's what we're meant to carry out in this lifetime to best serve ourselves as well as others. Now, Sva Dharma is a way in which we live in harmony. We make better choices that bring harmony to our constitution, as well as our practices to actually shape us, to actually serve that dharma. Adharmic means that there is a disharmony, which brings pain, disease, dis-ease, illness, and just this discomfort. So in these traditions of yoga and Ayurveda, they see that physically, mentally, emotionally, any disorders that are arising are rooted in living out of harmony with your constitution. So recapping, we did a series on the 7 stages of yoga. And in that, it states that yoga shows us how to realize our true self, our true nature. Through the practices, we start to understand the nature of our mind, cultivate self-awareness, deeper self-understanding, a greater self-knowledge as we realize our true self, leading us towards that transformation of liberation. So it's that working those 7 stages of yoga from self-awareness to that state of being liberated. Ayurveda shows us how to live in harmony in a way in which our physical, mental actions don't deviate from that realized true self and that path that we are taking. So what is dharmic for me might not be dharmic for you. So a practice that feels really good for me might actually make you feel very out of balance. So by studying these practices, studying different ways in which we can kind of understand ourselves and bespoke our physical practice, pranayama, our meditations, but also the foods that we eat, the vitamins, the herbs that we take, and starting to look at other things that actually pull us out of balance and what would bring us in balance. The combination of yoga and Ayurveda directs our practices, our awareness, and our life to realize what lies beyond the mundane world, but how to really celebrate this lived experience to our fullest potential. So yoga becomes probably the most therapeutic tool Ayurveda has in having such a big impact on our lived experience. So by using asana, pranayama, meditation with dharana, which is mental concentration, we can actually help various ailments, injuries, structural problems, energetic conditions, and disorders. So what this is really pointing us towards is to start to understand our doshas. We have 3 doshas, and in this practice, we're going to cover all 3 doshas. And next week, we will work with Vata dosha. The next session, we'll work with Pitta dosha, and the following session, Kapha dosha. So in this session, we're going to be looking at, each one, the kind of positives and negatives, their strengths and weaknesses, and actually how we can possibly nurture them. Now, we're all 3 doshas, but usually we're born having one very dominant one. Sometimes we're born with 2 that are very dominant. Very rarely that you'll see a tri-dosha person. I think I've only met a few people in my lifetime that are tri-dosha. One being my husband, which is super annoying because he doesn't do any of this and he still seems so balanced and grounded and stoic, which is so annoying because I do all of this just to try to maintain a little bit of balance and harmony, and I still go out of balance really quickly. So, but do know that you, during your lifetime, like from when you were little to middle age to older age, there's a whole science around understanding what age is a certain dosha type and a dominance, and what comes out of balance is more important than knowing what dosha type you are. You start to understand, this is out of balance. How can I bring this in balance so I can have harmony in all the other, too. So we'll go through Vata dosha first. Now, you might relate to these descriptions and go, oh yeah, that's me. Yeah, that's a bit of me. That definitely is me. Or you'll start to see how these play out in your personality and your choices in your life. So Vata dosha, Vata is that life energy of prana, which works through the element of wind and space to create activity in space around. It motivates and stimulates everything in motion. So Vata people are usually weakest in build. They have small little bones, small tissues. They're very sinewy and svelte. They have the greatest capacity for change and the ability to adapt to it to protect its constitution. The character type of a Vata person is one who is very creative, imaginative, very enthusiastic. They're very agile and responsive. And this gives them the ability to achieve their goals. They want to produce, they want to create. They have all these visions. And they love moving their body. They love exercise. They want to keep busy. They can't sit still. They prefer to be active, and they're very expressive, very spiritual, and sometimes quite ethereal and tranquil in a certain way, but they are running around on their tiptoes all the time. They're like windy and in the clouds. They're kind of frantic. And in this way, when they get aggravated, it shows up in the body as just being completely ungrounded, and they are darting from one subject to another. They have a lack of concentration on anything. They're just jumping. And what happens in their body is they dehydrate. They become too windy. And they say that the joints dehydrate, the tissues dehydrate. They get air issues regards to lung disorders, gas issues in their bowels. And so when this arises, it affects their nervous system. And in this, they'll start to experience this mental, emotional quality of being just really fearful, worrisome, anxious. They're stressed out, and they feel very overwhelmed and too flighty. They have a poor memory because they are just constantly jumping to one thing to another, and they don't have time to fully absorb. Now, Vata people are prone to insomnia because of the kind of constant thinking and wanting to create. But over time, what happens because of this wind element and space, that they don't feel very grounded, Vata people tend to dry up. They get really dry skin, cracky joints, issues with their muscles where they become very stiff. So in practice, how we best serve a Vata issue is to challenge them to remain still, to hold poses constantly, aware of the body, and feeling that sense of being grounded in the position. So we really focus on the exhale pattern, because the exhale is heating and grounding. Inhaling is expansive and inspiring, but then we need to then draw them back into their body. So Vata people are more prone to injuries in asana because of their nervousness and sudden movement, or even going beyond their extreme range of motion. So they have a tendency to injure and create tears quite easily. So to satisfy and create a happy Vata, we want to remove the stiffness in the joints, create steadiness in the muscles, and hydrate by movement. And in a way, we slow down that movement. We feel grounded. We calm and feel supported, yet creative in our expression of movement. So we need to move slow in this. So with that, we are going to now transition into understanding Pitta Dosha. Pitta Dosha is a combination of light and intelligence, which is the function through the element of fire and water, which gives illumination. It's that Tejas from that pranic flame. It is that light. It is that radiance. It's your charisma. Pitta people have an amazing charisma. They're usually A-type people. They're moderately built. They usually have freckles. They are filled with this kind of mental and emotional force. There is this energy to go and do life well. And so the character type of a Pitta is one of being very intelligent, of being very courageous, brave. They're kind of filled with this positive vitality and energy to go and do life. They're very concentrated and determined. Once they kind of seek a goal, they're like, I am focused. Their eyes are usually more forward in their face, and they are like concentrated in that way in which they become very consistently disciplined in being able to achieve that. Now, they are drawn normally to like practices like Ashtanga, because there's a series 1 to 6, and that gives them like, oh, I can do that. Series 1, tick that box. Series 2, tick that box. So they're very motivated in achieving, and they have a sense of black and white, right and wrong. There's no gray, there's no middle. And so this is the way, this is the only way. Now, when Pitta becomes aggravated, they cook a little bit too hot. They build too much heat, and it shows itself in inflammation of like headaches, to skin rashes, to acid in the stomach, to overheating. And then that all of a sudden gives rise to an emotional way in which they become quick to anger, impatience, intolerance. They have a real strong jealousy streak and being controlling. They're hot-tempered. And then they tend to overdo movement because they think, if I do more, then I will be more. And so there is this kind of harshness to their behavior, especially in practice. They become very militant. And they overexert themselves, creating more of this fire where they end up burning up and then burning out. So the burnout is a Pitta thing. Now, in our yoga practice, what we need to do is to create a more gentle approach. We have to meet fire with fire, yeah? But during our asana, we encourage that Pitta to stop the kind of negative thinking and harsh criticism, that we need to give them what they like to do, but then calm and ground them in a way in which they connect to a stronger container, like this is enough as it is, and that they need not to be so hard on themselves. They're hard on themselves because they have high expectations, and if they don't meet that, they feel less than. So this way of being kind and going, you're doing great, and this is okay, kind of lessening the human doing and just be. And that will help draw them into being more cool, calm, patient, kind, and more open to which will reduce that kind of inflammation felt in the body emotionally and mentally. Now that draws me to Kapha. Kapha dosha is a combination of matter and form. This is shown up in the elements as water and earth. Now, in this experience of water and earth, we connect to what creates stability in our body. We create a connection to what sustains our life force, what sustains our tissues. So that physical form of our earth body and the water form that sustains and nourishes our body. Now, Kapha people are usually the strongest in build. They have the biggest muscles, they have the biggest bones. They carry a bit more weight. And they have a tendency to have a little bit more water in that form of mucus and water weight. So a character type of Kapha, they're devotional. They are so nurturing. They're loving, caring, very reflective. They are so empathetic and compassionate to their own demise. And in that way, they have a lot of time for other people. Actually, they get a lot of kind of worth by being of service to other people and actually bringing people together and really feeling like they are a part and belonging of a very kind of loving, nurturing. They love to cook for other people. They love to hold yoga classes. They just really like being around people and being of service to people. And when they find something that really excites them and really draws them in, they will commit. They are faithful. They are loyal until the end. So it takes a lot to kind of break that bond with a Kapha. Now, aggravated Kapha really points towards that there's too much water retention in the body. Also, there is just too much weight and mass. So there is a tendency to see that Kapha find it really hard to motivate themselves. They get sunk into that lethargy and they become very stagnant. So it's that kind of stagnation of depression, a lack of motivation, and just being motionless, which causes an imbalance and a lot of dis-ease and disease. Now, in the yoga practice, what we advise is actually to challenge them to be more active, to encourage them to be like, you're doing such a good job. And if all of a sudden they get a cheerleader rooting for them and they're like, you think I'm doing a good job? Okay, we're going to do this. And so there's a part of Kapha that you just really need to really encourage, congratulate, nourish that kind of like, we're doing good, we can do this. And it's that be that own personal cheerleader within us. So with that, as we look at their kind of earth and their water, we really need to really champion their strength, ground them, but then stimulate them. So back bends, laterals, but really do it in a devotional way in which captures their heart and they fall back in love with their body moving. So you're going to see in this practice loads of different conversations that you're going to have. The first bit of your practice is going to be all about Vata. And because Vata is the one that usually comes out of balance the quickest, we're going to spend more time in the kramas trying to connect to Vata. Then we're going to do a Pitta krama. And in that Pitta krama, you'll notice that it's going to be quite challenging and it will build some fire. And then in the Kapha krama, the sequence, we're going to kind of really open up to what matters to us most and how we can connect to the more positive sides of Kapha. Now, in each of these kramas, your other doshas are going to have a conversation. In the Vata, Pitta is going to go, I don't like how creative this is. I want to do a normal vinyasa. And they become really irritated, impatient, and fiery towards the krama of Vata. Kapha is going to go, oh, can we just do the warm-up sequence, Zephyr, that you normally do? I love that. And I don't like this one because this is new and I don't feel like I'm good enough around it. Now, when we do the Pitta's going to be like, yeah. But Vata goes, oh my gosh, that's a bit too much fire. I feel like a forest fire now and my wind is going everywhere. So we have to really kind of like look at how we can ground Vata in our Pitta practice. Kapha people are going, oh my gosh, this is a bit too much movement. I'm going to miss out the vinyasa and I'm just going to do child's pose. In the Kapha practice, Pitta is going to go, this is so naff, this is so down. Vata people are going to kind of go, oh, like, I love this, but can we like be more creative and like, and like, oh, I have so many more ideas. I'm going to be, and so Vata is going to fly off with the fairies and create so many visions where you're going to need to ground her. So there is this kind of sense of starting to become familiar with all three doshas in your practice, the kind of character types that are in you and what comes out of balance, what goes in balance, and how to actually bespoke your practice to meet your needs. So with that all being said, we're going to come up onto our hands and knees. So this first krama is all about Vata. So I'm going to have you come onto your hands and knees and you're just going to move your body in circles. And now notice the pops, the cracks, the stiffness. This is all Vata imbalance. Change sides. So it's saying that there's too much wind in you. So movement helps start to activate this prana. Come into down dog and pedal out your feet. Again, you might hear some cracks, some pops. Notice where you're stiff. As we move, what we're doing is now moving that prana and connecting to that vital energy to rehydrate, lubricate, and connect us to our body. So as we bend our knees now, sit in Virasana. So you're going to either sit on your heels, you can take a brick and sit in between your ankles, or you can sit in between your feet in traditional Virasana. So you choose what's safest for your body. Pitta people, even if their knees hurt, go, I want to sit in between my ankles. I'm going to force my body. Vata people, will be on their tiptoes and be like, yay! Kapha people will be in a chair. So just noticing your tendency of like what you have going on for you today. Now, with Vata, what really helps balance them is pranayama as well as chanting, because it is creative, it is expressive. But when we exhale for longer, as I said, it's heating. And in this pranayama technique, the O is going to be 3/4 length. The M is going to be 1/4 length. So you're going to go Om, and then right at the end, And so the Om is going to satisfy that creative side, opening up to that wind and that space. But the last bit, you're going to press your hands down and really feel that vibration, earth, the mind, energy in its body, grounding Vata, okay? And we'll work in our practice with Brahmari Pranayama as well, because it's such a good one to connect Vata to its body. So as we inhale 3 times, Om.
If you would like to continue to practice, find out more information about the topics discussed, or to donate to this podcast, please visit zephyryoga.com or follow the link in the episode description. I thank you.